Hi guys, I've had several queries about what equipment that I use in the way of webcams and microscope and how it's hooked up to the equipment that I use, what I use for the YouTube videos, and I thought I would do a little video on that because a number of people were asking me about that. And I remember when I first started doing some videos, I couldn't find anyone that was actually discussing how they made the videos. So I think that might be helpful for some, especially with regard to like electronics and micro soldering and stuff like that we get involved with. So what you're looking at right now is video taken with, I've got a Panasonic Lumix camera that I bought. They're not all that cheap, and I seldomly actually use it. I mostly use little webcams. There's actually one, you can barely see it over here. I've got one behind me on an arm which you can't see, which I'll turn on in a minute so you can see what it is. It looks at the screen and stuff. There's a little one over here that's aimed at the oscilloscope over there and stuff. That is kind of what I use. I have fixed manual focus lenses on them, 5 to 50 millimeters, most of them. This one has a 1.8 to 20 millimeter lens on it, but that's what I use for looking at the devices and things that I normally have my video. I've got another one overhead there, which is also a 5 to 50, and we'll turn those things on and you'll see how they come about, what they do. So let's have a look at that next. So here I'm actually using that little blue camera that you saw. It's not a very good one. In fact, all of the little webcams that I have, some are like $20 and some are like $180, but every single one has issues. So I'm not necessarily recommending any of them, and you'll just have to look around what you can get, I guess. The better ones have HDMI output as well as USB output sometimes. If you use the USB output, the tendency is for them not to have as high a resolution, and you can't see the menu when you hit the menu button and stuff like that on the screen. So I tend to use them in HDMI mode. But because I want to be able to capture the video and put it the output and capture it for videos, I use that AverMedia device over here, which is a video capture device. It's got HDMI coming in, and it's got USB going out to the computer, and that allows me to actually capture the video so I can record it using OBS Studio. But because I have multiple devices connected to this thing, I also have a HDMI switch over here, which actually allows me to switch from one to the other, and I've got a remote control for that. Number one is the microscope and number two is the oscilloscope, and then I got 3 and 4. I got two little leads over here that I can plug into certain devices that I have, but that are not they're just sitting there, not plugged into anything right now. So that's how I do those things. So therefore what you will see is I go to the AverMedia capture, and right now this is actually the microscope, but it's not looking at anything. It's kind of blurry, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I can actually go to number 2, and that's the oscilloscope. And as you can see, the oscilloscope has an HDMI output, so that's going through there, and it's actually going through into OBS Studio, software that I'm using in order to record this. And as you can see, the oscilloscope actually It runs a version of Linux actually internally, so it actually outputs HDMI, and I can use a mouse with it, as you can see, which allows me to I can actually click on things with the mouse and open up all the settings and stuff like that. So it's kind of handy. But that's the oscilloscope that I can use. I don't have to aim a camera at it, which is what some people do, but it just this is much clearer, and I prefer doing it that way. Then I have, let me see where the other camera is. I can turn that one off, and okay, so I've got an overhead camera there, which is this one that I often use to show things when I'm doing stuff overhead. This is the widest view that it has, but it's connected to the ceiling with a extensible arm, so I can actually lower it and raise it to get almost as close as what the microscope can get. It has a remote control as well, which you can actually use in order to zoom in on things and what have you, but I don't tend to use that because if you zoom in with that, you actually get digital zoom and not zoom through the lens, so I adjust the lens. So when you have these devices and they have HDMI output, other than using one of those, that AverMedia thing that I said, you can also use these. They work very well. This is a HDMI video capture device. They cost about $20 on Amazon. You have HDMI coming in and you got USB coming out, and this is actually, these things are actually up to 4K definition, and they actually do a really good job, just as good as that AverMedia thing, which was a lot more expensive. So this is what I tend to hook up to those webcams, little video cameras that I have, and I use their HDMI output and then plug that into the PC so I can see it. Now obviously when the microscope and some of these cameras, they have HDMI output, so you can actually plug them directly into a screen. If you don't have to record the videos, then you can plug your microscope camera straight into a screen or a TV or whatever, and you can see the picture on there, and you wouldn't need one of these devices if you doesn't need to go into the computer. But for me, I do, so I use these. I've got 3 of them for 3 different cameras. Microscope. So the microscope that I have is by no means the most expensive one. I suspect you can get better ones. Now, some people have a different visual acuity, you could say. I have no problems at all looking at a large screen, the image on the microscope, have it on the screen in front of me, and I actually prefer that. But some other people claim that they can't work with it like that, and they have to have one of those binocular versions that you can actually look through the lenses and everything like that. They want to see it in 3D, and if you're one of those, you can buy one of those, and you can still put a camera on it, and you can still display it on the screen as well. And some people do that, but I don't have a need for that, so I just have this microscope here. Now it is on an AMScope arm, and this allows me to move it. I park it over there, and it allows me to move it anywhere I like on my desk, and the height can be adjusted and everything like that. It works very well, and it's not cheap. I waited until it was on some sort of sale at $254, I think I paid for it. But previously I had a stand on it, and that was much more less convenient. I had to drag the whole thing over here and clear my desk and so on. And so that is how I've got it set up. I do have this is one of these high-ear cameras. I don't know if you can see it. It has HDMI output, and I put the cables through a thing over here, and that goes to that AverMedia thing over here, as I said. Well, through that switch, of course, goes to the switch and then to here. And I'll get back to that microscope in a second. Let's have a look at the screen and things like that. Okay, so I actually also sometimes use this thing over here, which is a magnifying glass with a ring light in it. If I just want a quick look at something, I have actually, and you can barely see it there in the background. That's one of those little microscopes, add-on style one. They actually work pretty good, but I don't find them good for soldering and stuff, because when you got larger PC boards, the little stand gets in the way and stuff like that, and I use the big microscope instead. But in any case, what you see here is this is the screen that I use. It's actually a 42-inch 4K TV that I've had for ages, and I had it previously on my workstation because I used to do software development, and I now put it over here. It is connected to the ceiling with that with an arm that actually I can move up and down to if I want to get it out of the way. This over here is the other camera that I use, which is actually also a webcam. Brand name is Microscope. Seems to work. It was the more expensive one, but it seems to work reasonably well. But that's the one I use mostly for the overhead shots. So I wanted to show that. Of course, over here is, you just see the corner of my other screen. I've got two screens on the PC. The big one that you see, there's nothing on there right now, and the smaller one. And you can see I actually have a Barlow lens on there. It actually allows you to see larger devices, like you can see the whole chip over here, and some of the larger chips. This is a medium-sized one. You can still see the whole thing. You can it's like zooming out a little bit, I guess. It does have a little bit of a drawback on account, as you can see right on the edge over here. It can be, this one is a little bit blurry on the edge for some reason, but nevertheless I most often use it like this. But another drawback that it has is that the glare that you get, let me see if I can bring up a more interesting section here. The glare that you get with the ring light with that Barlow lens on there seems to be worse. But the one feature that it has is that when you are, let me get the other camera online there, and then I can turn this one off for a second. There is quite a large distance between, you know, the microscope and the little PCB over here. So when you are soldering and doing stuff like that, nothing gets in the way. Now, if I take the Barlow lens off, it's just screwed on. It unscrews, and this one is a 0.5. 0.5 times 1. You can get different values of them, but I find that one is pretty much ideal for what I do. Now, when I take that off, a couple of things happen, and the first thing is that the microscope has to be a lot closer to the actual PCB, but you can go much closer. You can see more detail, and also when you use that, you see that the glare is not as bad when the BILO lens is off, because it's much closer to the actual microscope. However, you see how much closer I have to hold it. It's like before, you know, it was on my desk, and now it's like that close, you know, like on about 2/3 closer. So now it might be difficult to get in there also with soldering and stuff, but it is actually possible to adjust the lens so that you get a little bit more distance. So it just depends what you're doing, right? Now I could lower the microscope, you know, to put this on my desk and everything, but I don't want to do that right now, because it's I want to show later on with the BILO lens back on. So let's have a look when I go and dial out. So now I have zoomed out on the microscope. I'm holding it in my hand, so that's why it's a bit shaky. So now I have a little bit more distance. So now I'm about 50% or 60% higher than before with the BILO lens on there. And but the further you go down, the more glare you get with that ring light, and that is where the gooseneck lights come in. You can see it is actually sitting over here, and this is one of the lights over there. So when I switch that on, and I can actually switch this ring light off, and now when I go to the microscope, okay, so as you can see with the gooseneck lights on there, it is much clearer. There's no reflections, and it almost looks more like a three-dimensional image, because you can, you know, you can move the lights around and change the, you know, the shading. And sometimes with some of those chips, you can move around the lights around a little bit, and so you can read the numbers on them and stuff like that, which you may not be able to see with the ring light, but sometimes you can actually see it better with the ring light. So it all depends. And the ring light, of course, you can make it brighter, and so when I turn the brightness right up on the ring light, you can actually see the description on this chip quite well. So you know, sometimes you mix and match depending on what you have. A little bit of ring light and a little bit of the gooseneck light. But most of the time I use the gooseneck light, especially when I'm soldering. So that's that. So here you see how I've got the microscope hooked up to the screen directly, so you can actually see, you know, if you were like soldering or something, you can actually see it right on the screen there. That is what I use. Turn this light off, it has less glare on the screen. Okay, so to recap then, as I said, I've got this microscope here on this M-scope arm, and I can just move it out of the way. And these little webcams over here. The other one that I was using is over here. You'll be able to see it if I loosen it up. I have them on these flexible arms that you can actually, if you turn it, then it's you can turn it to any position. This is the one that I was using to show the screen, and when I'm not using it, I just put it out of the way, like so. The side of the desk, it can just stay there. The same way that I have this one folded up over here that I wasn't using. And you can use these guys over here in order to go from HDMI to USB 3 if you need to plug it into the computer, or you can use the video capture device, a more advanced one like this AverMedia 2 Plus, and you can pass the HDMI signals up to a HDMI switch. If you've only got like one output, then you can put multiple inputs to one output if you don't have to watch multiple cameras at the same time. But usually, quite often I have 2 or even 3 cameras aimed at different things, and I put them together when I'm doing the videos. So that's kind of what I have, and that works for me. So I thought some of you might find it interesting, and I will see you guys later.